It's been nearly 2 years since Bernard Madoff confessed to masterminding the largest and longest-running Ponzi scheme in history and turned himself in. After that fateful day in December 2008, the Securities Investment Protection Corporation, which is tasked with ensuring victims of broker fraud or failure and recovering assets from the fraud of those victims, received over 16,000 insurance claims from Madoff's innocent victims. Of them, to date, SIPC has granted only 2,200. That means that right now, at this very minute, many, if not most, of the over 13,000 innocent victims of Bernard Madoff who for years reasonably thought that they were entitled to SIPC insurance on the balance in their accounts in the unlikely event that their investments were entangled in a broker-dealer fraud or failure, instead are destitute and out of luck. And those are just the investors who filed actual claims. What crime did these investors commit? These 13,000 people and their families, like millions and millions of people who invest in our markets, put their trust in our financial system, its regulators, and its safeguards. 2 years after Madoff turned himself in, 2 years after these 13,000 people have been turned away time and time again from the protection to which they reasonably believed they were entitled, it has become very clear that Madoff robbed them, our system betrayed them, and our government failed them. Who's responsible? Who caused this problem? Who do we turn to? Who do the victims turn to? You know, people have reasonable expectations of government, its agencies, and the organizations that are created by them. Where I come from, if the police don't do their job and stand idly by when terrible things happen, if a doctor just stands around and doesn't do what he's supposed to do, if emergency responders show up in the ambulance, they just sit and watch the accident, people wind up suing those agencies and the city and the municipality and the government for negligence. Someone is liable, whether it's because of incompetence or misfeasance or malfeasance. Somebody is responsible for not fulfilling the reasonable expectations that people have and come to rely on. And here in the federal government, if there's not a legal responsibility, there certainly is a moral responsibility for creating the climate that people depended on. That we have failed these investors is heartbreaking enough in terms of human tragedy. But the damage that has been done to investor confidence at this critical time in our economic and financial recovery as a result of our failure to safeguard and protect these innocent Madoff victims and our country's negligence in leading them to believe that they were insured is as frightening as it is self-defeating. Today's hearing will focus on the Securities Investors Protection Act and the present and future role of SIPC in providing assurance to investors in our markets that they are protected, really protected, not fake protected, against broker-dealer fraud or failure. It is my strong hope that this hearing is a prelude to the subcommittee's consideration of the Ponzi Scheme Investor Protection Act, a bipartisan bill that I've introduced along with numerous members of this subcommittee in the House to provide some relief to many of those innocent victims of Ponzi schemes of all kinds who have been spurned by SIPC, and to proactively assure investors in our securities markets that they are protected against fraud, regardless of its scope or longevity. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much again for scheduling the hearing, and I too look forward to hearing from our witnesses. My colleague, Mr. Garrett, talked about the SIPC logo. This is the SIPC logo. People look in shorthand. They look for symbols. They look for things, and they. This is the way we conduct our lives, fortunately or not. And we all get those little statements, from our financial institutions 15 times a week with all that fine print, and it's folded in 16 pieces, and we don't read it and we throw it out. And sometimes we say, "Who made these people send this out?" And then I scratch my head and I said, "Oh my God, what have we done?" But we don't read those things. We do the shorthand. You know, and it says, you know, people go into the bank. It says protected by the FDIC, and people believe they know what that is. It's the government standing behind, and they got insurance up to a certain amount that we just increased in this last Congress. And they know they got insurance, and the government's standing behind it, and then they go to their broker and they see this, and it looks kind of like the same kind of deal. And you go to your guy to make an investment, and he hands you his business card, and we just pulled two out of the fishbowl that we got, and on it says he's a member of the NASD, and he's a member of SIPC. And everybody's business card, they're proud they're a member of SIPC. That's code for you're protected, and Uncle Sam and the government are standing behind it, and you go into the guy's shop, and you go to your broker-dealer, and you got this on the door. And if you look them up, like I used to do not too many years ago, and those of us who were technologically challenged, and you go to the yellow pages, his ad has this in it, his stationery has this on it, his radio ad tells you, his TV ad tells you. You go to the Internet, and he's advertising he's a member of SIPC, and you see what it says right under the logo, security, investor, that's me, protection, that's what I need, corporation, that's what I got. And instead of a dot on the I, guess what we got? We got the American eagle, just like on my stationery, and on the shield of the President of the United States and the Supreme Court. That's shorthand for your government is standing behind this, and we've allowed this to happen. I'm not a real doctor, but I'm playing one to fool you, and your government is accepting it. And you got insurance for $500,000, except you ain't got nothing.